Good morning everybody, KT here with Wise Images Photography, and today I am going to go ahead and show you guys how I got this picture of this beautiful black skimmer and turned it kind of into this golden image. And I'm going to go over some real simple techniques here in Lightroom. Not really going to get really technical. We're not going to go into like all, you know, like the curves and this and that. This is going to be a very simple edit. But I think it's not just about what happened in Lightroom or what goes on in Lightroom, but also what goes on in the field. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about how I created this entire image, and I hope you really enjoy it. So let's get going. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about this image. Basically, as you can see, this is the final product. It is a very glowy image. It has the black skimmer is literally coming in. The wings are spread out open. And in the back, if you notice, I did tend to kind of blow out the back. And I really like this look on this particular image. I didn't really want a lot of texture because I felt like the focal point needed to be the wings itself here. And it just, I love how the light is kind of like lightly kind of just backlighting the feathers here. Some of them are like completely blown out, as you can see, but then you can also see that some of them just have that nice kind of golden image going right through it. And that was, honestly, it wasn't even something I planned, okay? When I brought this into Lightroom, I knew that this was the image I wanted. I was out at Pensacola, Florida, and I was working during the daytime, and then at nighttime I was going out to the beach. It took me about half an hour to get over to the beach every night, and I'd go out and I'd sit out there for hours, way even before the golden hour even happened. And it was kind of cool because one of the locals had said, "Hey, have you seen the black skimmers?" And I'm like, I don't know. And then they described what a black skimmer looked like, and I go, oh yes, so that's what that bird is. I'm like, that is a really cool bird. So this was kind of like my first time kind of really taking note of what a black skimmer looked like. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm like, I love them because they're, you know, they got the orange bill and they're black, and you know, my favorite colors are, you know, my favorite color is orange. And so I just completely fell in love with this little bird. And needless to say, I went out there every single night because all I wanted to do was capture a fantastic close-up photo of this bird. And this was after like going out there for 4 nights in a row. This was finally the image that I caught, and I was very super happy about it. As you can tell in its raw state, it's very, very boring. Like, in regards to color, I think having the little birds in the front, in the foreground, and having them out of focus, it kind of adds more to the scene. And then you have the black skimmer here coming through with the wings wide open. I think that's just cool. I mean, you're just catching a bird in flight, and it's amazing how they can glide in and just land on the ground. And then in the background, you do have a little bit of texture here, but what I found is I started editing it. I liked it kind of not having the texture and having kind of more of that blowout kind of look, and focusing on more of making the bird turned out to be a little bit more orange, and that's kind of what I was aiming for. So how did I get this effect? Let's go ahead and jump into the Lightroom here and get rocking and rolling. So here we have everything as shot. Excuse me. One of the first things I normally always do is I go ahead and bump up that exposure. So I'm going to go ahead and bump it up to about 85. Well, let's do 80. All right. So I bump up the exposure because it was pretty dark there, because the bird is being backlit by the sun. And because he's backlit, that's why he is so dark, or she is so dark. Now, the next thing is I love contrast. So I'm going to go ahead and bump my contrast up to about 50. And we'll do 51. Why not? Oh, 50. All right, there we go. Next up, because of how bright this is, I am going to go ahead and bring my highlights down just a little bit. I'm going to bring them down to about 15, 14, 15, somewhere around in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring up my shadows a little bit. And you know, sometimes I don't know if you guys have difficulties with remembering, well, which way do I go with the slider to make my things to go in Lightroom the way I want them to go. I was thinking about this, and a good way to remember this is, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Gremlins. It's an old movie, and probably dating myself with that one. But the Gremlins, whenever they got into bright light, they would always go, bright light, bright light, bright light. And so what I want you guys to remember here is when you look in Lightroom, if you notice when I go to the right, it makes everything bright. If you look up here at the histogram, notice that when I move to the right, it goes bright. When I move to the left, the histogram moves left, the picture moves dark. When I go to the right, it goes bright. So maybe instead of going bright light, like a gremlin, you go bright right, bright right. So bright right. And that way you will remember that going to the right will make everything brighter. The other thing is left has 4 letters in it and dark has 4 letters in it. So you have a couple different ways to try to remember which way to move your sliders. Now, anyways, let's go ahead and bump up these shadows a little bit more. Let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and bring my whites down just a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring my blacks down just a little bit. And if you notice, that kind of makes his head go a little bit darker here, okay? And that's kind of what I was going to be focusing on there. Next up, let's go ahead and talk about the presence. So with the clarity, I am going to bump it up a little bit. Now, if you want, you can always go to the left. And if you notice, if you do go to the left, this kind of gives you like more of a very soft, kind of dreamier feel to it. So if that's a look that you're looking for, just move that clarity to the left. It kind of softens the image a little bit. But one of the things that I noticed is that it kind of went over his bill here. I didn't really necessarily like that. But mainly when I get into a photograph, I normally bump that clarity up. All right, and then with dehaze, you can do the same thing too. If you go to the left, it's going to make everything very hazy looking. If you're trying to get rid of the dehaze, you're going to go to the right. And it kind of actually does the opposite of what I just told you guys, which was bright right, and then dark left, right? So it actually does the opposite on dehaze. But needless to say, when you do go to the left, it does brighten it. But you can always go into the exposure. You could bump it down if you wanted to, if you were like wanting to change that look there. All right, let's go back to our original settings here. All right, so we got 8. Let's go ahead and I'm going to put this dehaze about at 5. So I'm just kind of cleaning up the image. What I'm focusing on is these are like overall going over the entire photo, but I'm kind of looking at what is it doing to my subjects first, and then I'm going to focus on the background a little bit later. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and get into the vibrance. That's going to be right here. I'm going to go ahead and bump up the vibrance, kind of get these colors starting to pop. Now, if you guys notice, when I did that, you started noticing that the orange came through. And that is mainly because I was shooting at golden hour. You have lots of different things going on here. You have in the back, you have the golden hour coming on, happening. You have the light is coming through or coming over that bay, and you also have the bay there, as you can see here in the background. You have the bay, so you have the reflection of that coming through, and that's what's kind of, I think, all those factors are what are hitting this bird in the wings. And so that's why we're getting a little bit of that orange color, is because that was the primary color that was coming through. Now saturation is going to bump up like kind of the, if you go to the far right, look, it really will show you what colors are kind of coming through. And we have like a lot of yellows and a lot of oranges. With saturation, vibrance, I bump up a lot, right? But with saturation, you want to be a little bit more, in my opinion, a little bit more sparing on that one. So I'm just going to go ahead and bump that up to about a 5. All right, so let's go ahead and move down a little bit further. So we're gonna go in now. I did say that this was a simple edit, but we are gonna go into at least the HSL sliders. I hope I didn't tell you that at the beginning, that we were gonna bypass all that fun stuff. But we're not gonna go into it too deep. So we are going to talk about the hue, which is basically the tint, the tone of the colors there. The saturation is like how much power there is to that particular color, and luminance is the brightness of that color. So I don't want the yellow. When I was there, it was like orange, y'all. Orange, orange, orange. And orange is my favorite color, so we're just going to go ahead and get rid of a little bit of the yellow. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to take down to a 10 and go ahead and get a little bit of the yellow out of there. I'm going to go ahead and take 10 on the saturation. I'm trying to get rid of some of that yellow because I want the orange to start. That's what I want to actually come through. All right, so that is it for the HSL area. My apologies if, like I said at the beginning, I said, oh, we're going to go too deep into Lightroom. Sorry, I took you into one extra panel. All right, so needless to say, let's go ahead and keep moving. In the details section, I'm not even going to touch anything with sharpening. As you can see, there is a little bit of grain going on here. A lot of that has to do with the fact that this bird is backlit, and so there's a lot of shade on the front of them. And I want to say that I was shooting at a 1400 ISO. In case you were wondering how I did that, I flipped through and I was hitting the eye. Okay, and that's how I was able to flip through that information. So think of eye information. All right, so if I were to take this luminance and move it to the far right, you will see that it does take away the noise, but it also makes everything really soft. So I want to actually have a little bit of this, a little bit of the grain. So let's go ahead and do it around 13. Oops. All right, just so you know, I don't know if you guys noticed that, but I was here and I was using my scroll button, but because I was like clicked on it, it actually moves everything around. Right now, that's because I was clicked onto it. So to get it to stop moving, I just kind of clicked on it again, clicked off of it, and then now I can go back to scrolling down. So in case you guys ever kind of go, why is it not working? That's what's going on. One of the things that I do is I go ahead and remove chromatic aberration. That is kind of like that blue coloring, not blue, but purple coloring that you sometimes get on images. So I always go ahead and hit remove chromatic aberration. I enable the profile corrections. I don't know if you guys notice here, but the image was pretty dark at this point. A lot of times you get vignetting and distortion with your lenses, so when you click that, it fixes that. So now the photo is getting really super bright. And then the last thing that I always do is I go into vignetting. Now if you go really far left, you can have a really thick vignette, and it's kind of funny that I do chromatic aberration and then I do, like, you know, the whole you know, enable profile corrections, and then I'm like, oh, let me, after I just told you to take out the vignette from the lens, I go ahead and add one. But that's what I do. And I just kind of, I think I'm gonna go, I don't want it to be a real heavy vignette, because I actually I want the vignette to kind of close your eye into it, but I also kind of want that almost like that washed out kind of look with the background. There's a little bit of texture, but I'm hoping that maybe I can take a little bit of that out. All right, so that is basically it right there. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a couple more tweaks here. And like I said, this is a simple edit. I'm not going to go into like AI with, you know, choosing just your subject or choosing just your background. You can definitely do that. I am starting to play with some of those AI powered tools. However, I am a little bit old fashioned. I still like the brush. I just love the brush. All right, so without further ado, one of the things is I would like to kind of bring the color up a little bit more. I actually want to warm this up. You know, I can go to the left and I could cool it down if I wanted to. But like I mentioned to you all, that's not what was happening. It was actually we were shot at like 60, I think it was around 6200. That's where it was shot at. I actually just want to kind of bump it up just a little bit more. Maybe that's a little bit too much. Let's go about 6500. Let's see where that brings. I like that. I love the orange in this photo. That is really honestly what I liked about it. Now, what I want to do is I kind of want to blow out the sky just a little bit more. So I'm going to hit K, and that's going to bring up my brush tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just kind of lightly, you know, just kind of lightly paint around the bird. And I do have, you know, you can definitely pick the sky if you wanted to. When I did try it a little bit earlier today with the AI tool, he kind of got some of the feathers, and I didn't like that. So that's why I went ahead and decided that I'm going to just go with the brush. And if you guys notice that on my size, that's, you know, to taste, so to speak, whatever you're trying to get. Like if you don't want to take forever, make a bigger brush. If you want to get, you know, a little bit closer, you can get a little bit of a smaller brush. I put my feather at about 58. My flow, think of the flow as like the pressure. Like if you're actually going to be painting, and if you wanted something to be lighter, you kind of, like if I was painting, let's make this the, here, okay. So if I was painting and I wanted to lightly touch everything, right? That would be a flow of like, probably like an 8. But let's say I really wanted to make it dark, you know, so I'm like, you know, I'm pushing onto it as hard as I can, you know, and that would be more like the 92 to 100, okay? All right, so needless to say, and the density I think kind of does the same thing, but I'm not really 100% sure. I just kind of have like always left the density alone, and you know, I think of density, it's like how dense something is. So like maybe, I don't know, maybe it'll sparkle my brush or something, I don't know. But that one I'm not really overly sure about. Now, if I want to know what I actually went ahead and painted, I can go ahead and check mark over here so that I can go ahead and see what I did paint. I'm going to go back, just kind of touch a few spots that I kind of missed. And I'm okay with it not being completely right up on to my black skimmer here. I'm not trying to, I don't want you guys to sit here and, you know, have to watch all of this, you know, like I don't have to be completely particular. I don't want to waste you guys' time with that. So what I would do is, now that I've kind of painted the background here, notice that I can kind of go up a little bit. Now I could go really far right, and that kind of blows it out way too much. So I'm just going to go ahead and actually I think I want to paint a little bit more here. All right, and now it's kind of got kind of a little bit of that more, you can still tell that it's orange in the background, but I did kind of blow out, I'm going to go ahead and put it down 0.5. I did blow out the background just a little bit because I was kind of, once I got this picture into, you know, into Lightroom and I started playing with it, I was like going, I kind of almost had this thought process of it being shot in a studio with like a white background, but instead of being completely pure white, it was more of an orangey pure white, or like a white, an orange with no texture. I don't know. I hope you guys kind of saw what I was trying to go with there. All right, so needless to say, now I'm going to hit K again, and I'm going to go ahead and hit K. It makes everything go away. I'm going to hit K again because I actually want to bring out these feathers, and I want to bring out my bird a little bit. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I actually have, preset brushes, and so I went ahead and clicked it to lighten, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just paint in here. Now obviously these are already pretty white there or bright, so I'm not gonna hit those. And I just changed the size, and what I'm doing, I don't know if just so that you guys know on my side, because you can't really see what I'm doing with my hands and stuff, but I'm using my mouse and I have a scroll right here, okay? And so the scroll is making, adjusting the size of my brush, and that's how I'm doing that. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just kind of wanting to brighten up a little bit of those whites. And I'm okay with the fact that I'm okay with it not being white balanced. I'm okay with it not looking white, because when I was there, y'all, it was it was golden like this, and that's what I wanted to convey in this image. All right, so needless to say, one last little thing. Let's hit K again. K, get everything away. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here. Now, with this particular bird, you know, he's got that really black eye that kind of matches his feathers. So what I'm going to do though is I do want it to pop just a little bit. So I'm going to hit K. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go ahead and take my brush and I'm going to go ahead and left click on it because I did the exact size. So it's going to be a nice little fade out on it because we know how my brush was. I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to do my Iris Enhance. In case you're wondering what my Iris Enhance tool does, I'm going to go ahead and hit K, is it kind of just gave them a little bit of a brighter, if you have like hazel eyes or blue eyes, it really makes a huge difference. It's a little bit harder on this bird. But needless to say, when I do go ahead and hit K, let me go ahead and click on this tool so you can see so that everything comes up for you guys. You can see here that basically I just made the exposure a little bit more. And then I went ahead and bumped the clarity up a little bit. And then I also bump up the saturation. So in a black eye, it's a little bit difficult. But like I said, if you have like a brown eye or a green eye or a blue eye, then you can really tell with that saturation going on right there. All right, so that is it. So, I accidentally put an extra... I got so excited, I got so click happy over there, I was hitting the wrong buttons. All right, so needless to say, let's go ahead and look at the before and after. There you go. So I took this very dull looking image and brought it up to be like this golden kind of image that looks like it was shot on a plain background almost. I love the little birds. You can definitely do more, but really I just wanted to have that nice kind of clean image and have that bird showing right out. Guys, if you like this, please make sure that you go ahead and give it a thumbs up. That way the algorithm pushes this video up so other people will be able to see it and learn something from it as well. And if you guys like to learn about nature, photography, and go on fun-filled adventures, please make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Hit the notification bell so that way you don't miss any other future episodes. We are going to start going out on some nature adventures soon. My health is continuing to get better every single day. I am still working on my stamina. It has taken me a little bit longer to get my stamina to where I want it to be, but it is getting there slowly but surely. So I guess patience is the key. Needless to say, I want to say you are awesome. Have a fantastic rest of your week. I'll see you later, alligator.